The Galactic Council gathered inside their great chamber, a place built on a station that floated around a dying star. The hall was vast, filled with long rows of seats that curved in a wide circle. Each seat belonged to a different world. Some races were tall and covered with scales, others small with bright eyes, and some looked like living stone. They had come together to decide the fate of younger species. At the center of the hall, a large crystal platform shone, reflecting the light of the star outside. The speaker of the council, an elder from the Valen race, stood there with calm dignity. His long arms folded across his chest as he began the session. "Today we discuss humanity," the speaker announced, his voice echoing through the chamber. "The species from the blue planet called Earth has asked for more influence in our matters. They claim to be ready to take part in decisions of the stars." A wave of low voices filled the chamber. Some laughed in disbelief, others spoke with annoyance. The council had seen humans rise quickly from their small world, but many still thought of them as too new, too wild, and too fragile. One counselor from the Thura race, tall and silver-skinned, rose and spoke with sharp words. "Humans have barely stepped outside their own system. They build ships that look like metal boxes. They still fight among themselves. They are not ready for true power in the galaxy." Another, from the Iruan people, shook his head. "If we give them too much space in the council, they will bring chaos. Let them remain observers only. They are children playing with fire." But not all agreed. A short, round being from the Iran world stood up slowly. His voice was softer, but it carried weight. "I remind you, humans are not to be measured by their years alone. They have survived wars, disasters, and hardships that would have broken many races. Their spirit cannot be dismissed." The chamber grew tense. The debate had begun to split the council. Some felt humans were weak and noisy, others felt they were something more. Far away on Earth, the humans had no seat in this chamber, but they were not blind. Through careful channels and secret allies, their leaders had already learned what was being said. They knew the council doubted them. They knew some even planned to test humanity by allowing hostile races to push against human colonies. In a secure underground hall beneath the surface of Earth, leaders from different nations gathered. They had their own council, smaller but filled with the same tension. Maps of stars were displayed on glowing walls, showing colonies, trade routes, and enemy positions. An older man named Adrian, respected by many for his calm mind, looked across the table. "The council does not believe in us. That much is clear. They think we are weak. But weakness is not in our nature." A woman named Mara, a rising commander known for her sharp eyes and steady will, leaned forward. "We cannot wait for their approval. If the galaxy doubts us, we must show them who we are through action. If they plan to test us, let us be ready before they strike." The room grew quiet. Everyone knew Mara's words carried truth. On the surface of Earth, life continued as normal for billions of people. Children went to school, workers filled the cities, and families dreamed of the future. Yet far above, in hidden places, engineers built ships in secret. Not the fragile explorers that had once carried humans to nearby worlds, but warships built like fortresses. Each was heavy, armored, and armed to defend against anything that threatened their people. In the asteroid belt, great construction yards glowed with the light of burning engines and welding sparks. Thousands of workers pushed forward, their hearts filled with determination. Every hammer strike and every bolt tightened was done with one purpose: survival. Back in the council chamber, the alien leaders continued their debate. Some called for patience, some for rejection, and some for quiet observation. They spoke of history, of tradition, and of power. But what they did not see was that far away, humanity was already moving. The session ended with no clear answer. The council speaker lowered his arms and declared, "The question of humanity shall remain open. We will watch. We will decide when the time is right. But when the chamber emptied, a few wise voices whispered among themselves. The Iran counselor who had spoken earlier leaned close to a colleague. His small eyes narrowed. They do not understand. The humans will not wait for our decision. They never have. They will act when they are ready, and when they act, the stars will know their strength. The dying star outside flickered faintly, its light reaching into the council hall. None of the great races noticed the omen, but the moment was clear. The galaxy had taken its first step toward a storm it could not avoid. And at the heart of that storm, humanity prepared to march. The asteroid belt was not silent anymore. Once it had been nothing but floating rocks, drifting shadows, and cold emptiness. Now, it had become the heart of humanity's greatest secret. Inside the shadows of the largest asteroids, vast shipyards had been carved. Caverns opened into space, each glowing with the light of engines and welding sparks. Hundreds of human workers moved across platforms, repairing, shaping, and building. The air was filled with the clang of tools, the hum of machines, and the steady beat of progress. Here, the hidden armada was rising. Unlike the sleek vessels of alien races, human ships looked like giants of steel. They were not smooth or elegant. Their shapes were blocky, their armor thick, and their weapons heavy. They were designed with one goal: endurance. Where alien ships relied on speed or style, human ships relied on strength. They were made to take punishment and keep fighting. Commander Mara stood on the bridge of one of the half-finished cruisers, looking out through a wide viewport. The shipyard stretched before her, alive with movement. A small smile touched her face. "Not beautiful," she said quietly, "but strong. That is all we need." Beside her, an engineer named Lian adjusted a data pad. He was younger, his hands covered with grease, his clothes stained from long hours of work. "We built these ships with what we had, not with what we wished for. Every plate of steel, every circuit, every engine made by our own hands. That makes them strong." Mara nodded. She admired his pride. The galaxy might laugh at human ships, but she knew that behind every vessel was sacrifice, sweat, and willpower. Beyond the asteroid yards, fleets of smaller ships patrolled silently. Scouts carried back news of enemy movements. Humanity had discovered that a coalition of alien powers was gathering. These hostile races had no patience for the rising species of Earth. They wanted to test, perhaps even crush, humanity before it could grow. In the command station hidden deep inside a hollow asteroid, a council of human leaders studied the reports. Adrian, the elder strategist, pointed at the star maps projected in the air. "They are preparing to strike one of our colonies. A small world on the edge, lightly defended. If they succeed, it will be seen as proof that we are weak." The room grew silent. Everyone understood. If humanity lost even a single colony without resistance, the Galactic Council would use it as evidence that humans were not ready for a voice in galactic matters. Mara stepped forward. Her eyes burned with resolve. "Then we do not wait for them. We move first. If the galaxy doubts us, let them witness what it means when humanity marches to war." Some of the leaders hesitated. Humanity had never launched a fleet this size before. But Adrian leaned back in his chair and nodded slowly. "She is right. If we wait, we fight on their terms. If we act, we fight on ours." A decision was made. The hidden armada would reveal itself. That night, the order spread through the shipyards. Workers cheered. Soldiers checked their weapons. Engineers rushed to finish last repairs. The silence of the asteroid belt gave way to the roar of engines powering up. Mara walked through the corridors of her flagship, a massive battleship named Resolute. The air was filled with energy, tension, and pride. Young soldiers straightened their backs as she passed. Crew members saluted. Everyone understood that this moment would shape the future of their people. On the command deck, Lian reported with excitement. Engines are ready. Weapons are charged. The Resolute stands prepared for launch. Mara placed a hand on the cold metal railing. Then let us show the stars what it means to be human. When the time came, the asteroid hangars opened like giant gates. One by one, ships emerged into the light of the sun. Fighters, frigates, cruisers, and battleships rose from their hiding places. They formed lines, their engines burning blue against the black of space. From Earth and the colonies, civilians watched through transmissions. Families huddled together, eyes wide with both fear and pride. Children pointed at the screens, whispering the names of the ships. Old veterans saluted, tears in their eyes. Humanity had hidden its strength for long years, but now it was marching forward. Meanwhile, alien spies hidden in nearby systems rushed to send their reports back to the Galactic Council. What they saw filled them with disbelief. Humans had built not a handful of ships, but a fleet. And not a weak fleet, but one that looked ready to fight. Back in the council chamber, far across the galaxy, messages began to arrive. Alien leaders stared in shock. Impossible, some whispered. How did they build this in secret? Others laughed nervously, but even their voices shook. The council speaker raised his hands, trying to calm the storm of voices. But in his heart, he felt a quiet fear. Humanity had not waited for permission. Humanity had chosen its own path. Out in the asteroid belt, the hidden armada spread its wings like a great storm. Engines roared, weapons shone, and banners of Earth were displayed proudly across the hulls. The march had begun. The fleet was ready. For weeks, the hidden armada had been waiting in silence among the asteroids. Now, the time had come. One by one, the giant engines of the human ships lit up, glowing bright against the endless black of space. The soundless roar of their power carried across the void. From battleships to small escorts, each vessel moved into formation. Together, they formed a wall of steel and fire, stretching farther than the eye could see. On Earth, families gathered in front of screens. Every colony, every station, and every ship with a transmitter tuned in to watch the launch. For many, this was the first time they had ever seen the true size of humanity's strength. In a crowded city square, children pointed at the sky display and whispered with awe. "Is that our fleet?" "All of that." Their parents held them close, their faces proud. Humanity had always been known for surviving, but now the galaxy would see them not just as survivors, but as marchers into destiny. Inside the Resolute, Commander Mara stood on the bridge. Her eyes never left the wide screen that showed the fleet ahead of her. She saw the cruisers holding tight lines, the frigates sliding into their places, and the fighters flying in perfect wings. Each movement was smooth and exact, as if the whole fleet had become one body. "Formation locked," reported Lian, the engineer who now served as chief officer on her ship. "All ships ready for warp on your command." Mara's voice was calm, steady, but filled with purpose. "Then give the order. The march begins now." With a signal, the fleet shifted into action. Blue light rippled across the engines, and one after another, the ships leapt forward. Stars bent and blurred around them as the fleet crossed the void at speeds once thought impossible. Across the galaxy, alien watchers noticed the sudden movement. Spies and scouts sent reports racing back to their masters. Messages flew to the Galactic Council. In the Great Chamber, alarms of information filled the air. "The humans are moving," one counselor shouted, his voice heavy with disbelief. "They are not defending, they are attacking." The chamber filled with noise as alien leaders argued. Some laughed, saying the humans would meet a quick defeat. Others sat silent, remembering warnings from the past. One voice, the Aran counselor with round eyes, spoke softly. "They march not because they wish to conquer, but because they will not wait to be broken. That is their way." But in the chamber, his words were drowned by louder voices. Meanwhile, the human fleet rushed through space. They were not heading to an alien core world, nor to a great prize. Their target was a small colony world on the edge, one chosen by the enemy as a place to strike. Mara had seen the reports. She knew the alien coalition planned to test humanity there. On the bridge of the Resolute, maps glowed with red and blue marks. Red for enemy scouts, blue for human ships. Mara studied them carefully. Enemy ships have gathered near the colony, said Lian. Their numbers are strong, but they do not expect us to arrive first. Mara nodded. Then we will not give them time to prepare. We strike the moment we arrive. The colony must see us come with strength. The crew straightened in their seats. Every person on the bridge felt the weight of her words. They were not only fighting to win a battle. They were fighting to show every human, every alien, and every counselor what their people could do. Hours passed. The fleet moved ever closer. Then at last, the warning came. Approaching system, said a voice from navigation. Colony in sight. Enemy ships detected. The view on the wide screen changed. A small planet appeared, glowing blue and green against the stars. Around it, alien vessels floated, their hulls bright with strange designs. They looked fast, elegant, and dangerous. Mara stood tall, her voice steady. Signal the fleet. Prepare for engagement. Today, the march becomes battle. Across the armada, lights flashed. Weapons charged. Shields rose. Fighters streamed from carriers, their wings spreading like a storm of steel birds. On the colony surface, settlers looked up. The sky filled with burning trails of ships entering orbit. Children clung to their parents, and farmers dropped their tools to watch in silence. For days, they had feared the alien fleet circling above them. Now, they saw their own kind arriving to protect them. One old farmer whispered, "They came. Our people came." Above, in the black of space, the two fleets faced each other. The aliens had expected to be the hunters. Now they were the hunted. Their commanders scrambled, surprised that the humans had marched first. On the bridge of the Resolute, Mara lifted her hand. "Open the channel. All ships, this is Commander Mara. The galaxy believes we are weak. They believe we are not ready. Today we prove them wrong. Fight for your homes. Fight for your people. Fight for the right to stand among the stars." A roar of voices answered across the fleet. For Earth. For humanity. The march had ended. The battle was about to begin. The human fleet entered the colony system with fire in their engines and determination in their hearts. The settlers below looked up at the sky, where burning streaks crossed the atmosphere as ships dropped out of warp. To them, it was a sight of hope. To the aliens waiting in orbit, it was a warning. The alien fleet spread out across the planet's edge. Their ships were sharp, fast, and bright, each carrying weapons that had destroyed many foes before. They expected a frightened enemy, slow to react and easy to break. Instead, they found an armada ready for war. On the bridge of the Resolute, Commander Mara stood tall, her eyes locked on the screen that showed the enemy lines. "Enemy ships are charging weapons," reported Lian. His voice was tense, but his hands were steady on the controls. Mara's reply was calm. "Then so do we. Signal the fleet. Begin the first strike." Across the armada, weapons came alive. Rail cannons glowed with power. Missile bays opened, their warheads ready. Fighters swarmed forward like silver birds, engines burning. The first clash began. Bright lines of plasma fire crossed the void as the alien fleet opened fire. Their shots struck hard against the human front, but the thick armor of human ships absorbed the hits better than expected. Where aliens relied on speed and light defenses, humans relied on shields layered over heavy steel. "Front line holding," called a voice from the Resolute's defense team. "Armor damage minimal." Mara gave the order without hesitation. Return fire. From the human side, missiles streaked through space, splitting into smaller warheads that scattered among the enemy ships. Explosions lit the dark sky, forcing alien cruisers to break formation. Rail cannons thundered, their rounds slamming into targets with unstoppable force. The aliens had never seen such tactics. They fought as individuals, their ships dueling in open space. The humans fought as one, each vessel protecting the other, their movements like a single machine. On the colony below, settlers stood outside their shelters, watching the lights of battle dance above the clouds. Some cried, some prayed, and some simply stared. For the first time, they believed they might survive. Back in space, the clash grew fiercer. An alien destroyer rushed toward the human lines, firing wildly. But before it could strike, 3 human frigates moved in tight formation, covering one another as they unleashed combined fire. The destroyer exploded into pieces, scattering across the void. Lian's hands flew across the controls. Enemy regrouping on the left flank. They're trying to push through to the colony. Mara's eyes narrowed. They will not pass. Signal Squadron 3. Cut them off. The order was obeyed instantly. A group of human cruisers swung around, their heavy cannons blasting into the alien flank. The sudden counter-strike forced the enemy back, their formation breaking apart. Yet the battle was not without cost. On the right side of the human line, a smaller ship took heavy fire. Flames spread across its hull, and alarms filled the communication channels. "This is the Falcon," came a desperate voice. "We are hit. Requesting support." Without waiting, another ship, the Iron Dawn, moved between the Falcon and the enemy fire. It took the blows on its own armor, shields crackling and engines sparking, but it held the line. The Falcon escaped behind it, battered but alive. Mara's heart tightened as she watched. She knew sacrifices would be made. Yet every act of courage showed the strength of her people. Hours passed, and still the clash raged. The aliens grew frustrated. Their weapons were fast, their ships elegant, but the humans would not break. Every time a hole opened in their line, another ship filled it. Every time an enemy pushed forward, the humans pushed back harder. At last, signs of weakness appeared in the alien fleet. A cruiser lost power. A battleship drifted with its engines dead. Their once perfect formation now looked scattered and broken. On the Resolute, Lian looked up from his screen. His voice carried excitement for the first time. "Commander, their center is weakening. If we strike now, we can break them." Mara raised her hand, steady and firm. "Then we strike. For the colony. For humanity." The human fleet surged forward. Cannons roared. Missiles filled the void. Fighters swept through the enemy lines, forcing them apart. One by one, alien ships fell, burning in silence as they broke apart into the darkness. In the colony's skies, the settlers saw the explosions above and knew the battle was turning. Cheers rose from their shelters, their voices filled with pride. On the council station, far away, observers watched in silence. What they had believed would be a quick defeat was now something else entirely. The humans were not running. They were holding, fighting, and even pushing back. By the time the first clash ended, the human fleet remained strong. Ships bore scars, but they still stood in formation. The alien fleet, once proud and confident, was in retreat. Mara stood at the center of her bridge, her voice quiet but firm. "This is only the beginning. Let the galaxy watch. We are here, and we will not fall." The crew cheered, their voices carrying through the ship. Outside, the stars were filled with wreckage, the first proof that humanity had entered the war and had not been broken. The battle over the colony did not end with the first clash. Both fleets pulled back for a short time, each side trying to recover. Smoke drifted from damaged ships, shields flickered, and exhausted crews worked without rest. Yet neither side was ready to give up. On the bridge of the Resolute, Commander Mara studied the tactical map. Red marks for enemy ships still filled the display, though their formation looked weaker than before. Blue marks for human vessels stayed close together, their lines steady. Lien stood beside her, his face lit by the glow of the screen. Our ships held, Commander. Stronger than even we expected. But the enemy is regrouping. They will come again. Mara's voice was calm but sharp. Then we must end this fight before they find their rhythm. We cannot let them keep striking at us. We need something to turn the tide fully in our favor. At that moment, a transmission came from the colony below. A tired voice filled the bridge. This is Governor Hale. Our rail cannons are ready. We have hidden them until now, but they can be fired at your command. The crew stared in surprise. Few had known that the colony had its own defenses hidden deep under the soil. Mara's lips curved slightly. Good. Then let us make this the turning point. She sent quick orders across the fleet. Some ships moved to draw the aliens closer to the planet, pretending weakness, while others stayed hidden in the shadows of the colony's moons. The trap was set. Minutes later, the alien fleet returned. Their ships rushed forward, eager to crush what they thought was a wounded enemy. Plasma fire and energy bolts filled the void once more, hammering the human front. Shields dropping on Sector 3, called a voice from the Resolute. Mara's reply came cold and steady. Hold the line. Wait for my signal. The alien fleet pressed harder, their commanders certain that victory was near. Their ships pushed closer to the colony, unaware of what lay hidden below. Then Mara gave the order. Now. Fire the cannons. From the surface of the colony, the ground split open, and enormous weapons rose from hidden bunkers. Rail cannons, each the size of a tower, turned toward the sky. With a soundless flash, they fired. Steel slugs, accelerated to incredible speed, tore through space like thunderbolts. The first shot smashed through an alien cruiser, breaking it apart in one blow. The second slammed into a battleship, ripping a hole through its center. On the Resolute's bridge, the crew gasped. Lian's voice shook with excitement. Direct hits. The colony's firepower is stronger than we thought. The aliens panicked. They tried to turn away, but human ships moved in at once, cutting off their retreat. Missiles and cannon fire rained into their scattered formation. Mara raised her hand, her voice strong. Forward. Break their line. The human fleet surged as one body. Cruisers cut through the middle of the enemy, their weapons blazing. Fighters swarmed in groups, striking weak points and pulling back before the aliens could respond. The colony's rail cannons fired again, breaking apart another two ships. For the first time, the aliens realized they were no longer the hunters. They were the prey. One alien flagship tried to rally its forces, turning its heavy guns on the colony. But before it could fire, Mara ordered the strike. The Resolute and two other battleships focused every cannon on the target. The flagship's shields burst under the impact, and with a final explosion, it vanished into fire. Cheers filled the human channels. Across the fleet, tired crews felt hope rise in their hearts. On the colony surface, settlers ran into the open fields, watching the sky as alien wreckage burned in orbit. They lifted their voices together in joy. The people who had feared abandonment now knew they were protected. Back in the Galactic Council chamber, distant observers watched the reports with shock. What was supposed to be a simple test had become a disaster for the coalition fleet. Humans, once dismissed as weak, had turned the battle with cunning, courage, and hidden strength. A counselor from the Thura race slammed his hands against the table. Impossible. They should not have been able to resist, let alone win. The Iran representative only gave a quiet reply. You do not understand them. They are not fighting only for a colony. They are fighting for their place among the stars. The battle ended hours later, when the last of the alien ships fled into the void. Some escaped, but many did not. Space around the colony was littered with wreckage. Human ships remained scarred and battered, but they were still there, still standing in formation. On the bridge of the Resolute, Mara finally allowed herself to breathe. She looked at her crew, their faces tired but shining with pride. "This was only the first battle," she said softly. "But it is the turning point. The galaxy will remember today. They will know that we will not bend, we will not break, and we will not be silent." Her words carried across the ship, and every person listened. They knew she was right. From this day forward, humanity was no longer only a rising race. They were a force the galaxy would have to respect. The turning point had come, and humanity had taken it. The battle was over, but its echoes spread far beyond the colony. Wreckage still floated in orbit, pieces of alien ships drifting like broken shadows against the stars. Human vessels, though scarred, remained steady in formation. The Resolute stood at the front, proud and unbroken. On the colony surface, settlers filled the streets and open fields. They celebrated with tears and laughter, waving to the skies as if the fleet above could see them. For many days they had feared that no one would come. Now they knew humanity had not forgotten them. Inside the Resolute, Commander Mara stood on the bridge, silent as she watched the stars. Around her, the crew worked to repair damage and gather reports. Lian spoke at her side, his voice filled with relief. "We held the line, Commander. The enemy is gone, and the colony is safe." Mara gave a small nod. "Yes. But more important than victory is what comes next. The galaxy is watching us now." She was right. Across the stars, news of the battle spread faster than light. Traders carried stories from system to system. Messages rushed through hidden channels. Everywhere, beings whispered the same question: how did the humans do this? In the great chamber of the Galactic Council, silence filled the air as reports arrived. The vast hall, usually filled with noise and debate, now seemed heavy with shock. One counselor spoke in disbelief. The coalition fleet was stronger. They had experience. Yet they were forced to retreat. Another added with frustration: human ships are crude and slow. By all reason, they should have been destroyed. But not all shared the same view. The Iran counselor leaned forward, his round eyes calm but sharp. "You speak of reason, but you forget will. The humans fight with more than metal. They fight with unity. That is what you do not understand." The chamber grew restless. Some members called for closer study of humanity. Others demanded restrictions, fearing what humans might do if their strength continued to rise. But no one could deny the truth: humanity had won against forces that were supposed to be stronger. Far away, in markets, ports, and stations, common people also talked of the humans. Some admired their courage, saying they might be allies worth respecting. Others feared them, wondering if one day those same ships might march toward their worlds. On Earth, pride filled the cities. Families gathered around screens, watching replays of the battle. Children pointed at the names of ships and dreamed of joining the fleet one day. Old veterans stood tall, saying the galaxy would now know what it meant to face humanity. Adrian, the elder strategist, met with leaders in the underground command hall. His voice carried across the room. "The Council doubted us. The Coalition tried to break us. Yet we stand stronger than before. This is not the end of war, but it is the start of recognition." The leaders agreed. For the first time, humanity was not waiting for others to decide its fate. They had spoken in the only language the galaxy understood: action. Back on the Resolute, Mara addressed her crew. Her voice was calm, but every word carried strength. "We have shown that humanity will not hide. We have shown that we will defend every colony, every family, every life. The galaxy has seen us. And now, they must accept that we belong among the stars. Her crew cheered, their tired voices filled with pride. They knew the road ahead would be hard, but they also knew they had changed the course of history. The shock of the victory spread even into the enemy ranks. The coalition of alien powers that had attacked the humans now found themselves divided. Some wanted to strike again, to prove that humanity's win was only luck. Others hesitated, fearing another defeat might destroy their standing in the council. Among them, fear began to grow. They realized humanity was not a small flame to be snuffed out, but a fire that could spread if pushed too far. The Galactic Council called for another meeting. This time, the chamber was more silent than ever before. The speaker of the council raised his arms, his voice heavy. We must decide what to do with humanity. They have proven themselves in battle. They have proven that they cannot be ignored. Arguments rose, but they were weaker than before. Every counselor knew the truth. Humanity was no longer a minor species to be dismissed. They had marched into war and returned standing tall. Across the stars, from great capitals to distant colonies, the shock of humanity's strength continued to spread. Some feared it, some respected it, and some waited to see where it would lead. But in the hearts of humans everywhere, one feeling stood above all others: pride. For the first time, they felt that they were no longer outsiders looking in. They were part of the great story of the galaxy. On the bridge of the Resolute, Mara looked out at the endless dark. She knew battles still lay ahead. She knew enemies would not forget their defeat. But she also knew that from this day forward, humanity had earned its place. The galaxy is watching, she whispered. Then let them watch. The stars shone back at her, silent witnesses to a new chapter in human history. The days after the great battle passed quickly, but their meaning would last for generations. The colony, once filled with fear, now stood alive with joy. Ships carried supplies, engineers repaired damaged stations, and families returned to their fields with hope in their hearts. Humanity had not only defended the colony, but also proved itself to the galaxy. On Earth, bells rang and lights filled the cities. Crowds gathered in every square to celebrate. For the first time in history, humans felt they were no longer small shadows in a vast galaxy. They had become a people to be respected. Inside the underground command hall, Adrian, the elder strategist, met with leaders of every colony and station. His voice carried wisdom and strength. We marched into battle not to conquer, but to survive. Yet in doing so, we have shown the galaxy that humanity is ready. Now comes the next step. We must take our place where decisions are made. We must have a voice in the Galactic Council. The leaders agreed. It was time to move from defense to recognition. Not long after, an invitation came. The Galactic Council, shaken by the outcome of the battle, called for a grand meeting. For the first time, humanity was asked to send a delegation. Many suspected it was not only an invitation, but also a test. Commander Mara was chosen to lead the delegation. Her victory at the colony had already made her a symbol of courage. When she stepped onto the shuttle that would take her to the council station, crowds cheered her name. Children waved flags, and families shouted their blessings. She carried not just her own honor, but the pride of every human. The council station was a vast structure that floated like a jewel in the black of space. Beings from 100 worlds filled its halls, each with their own colors, banners, and traditions. Yet as the human delegation walked in, all eyes turned toward them. Some stared with respect, some with fear, and some with disbelief. The council chamber was immense, shaped like a circle with high seats for each race. At its center stood the floor for those who wished to speak. When Mara and her delegation entered, a quiet murmur passed through the chamber. It was the first time humans had been given the right to step into that place. The council speaker raised his arms. His voice echoed across the chamber. Humanity, you stand before the council not as visitors, but as a people who have proven their strength. You may speak. Mara stepped forward. She wore no crown, no heavy armor, only the uniform of her fleet. Her voice was steady, simple, but filled with power. We came into the stars seeking only a place to live. We asked for respect, but were given doubt. We asked for peace, but were met with attack. In the face of that, we stood together. We defended our own, and we did not fall. We are not here to beg, nor to threaten. We are here to claim our rightful place among you. Her words carried across the chamber. For a moment, silence followed. Then the debates began. Some counselors argued against humanity, saying their rise was too quick, their courage too dangerous. Others argued in their favor, saying a people who could fight with such unity deserved a seat. At last, the Aran counselor spoke, his round eyes calm as ever. You may fear them. You may doubt them. But you cannot ignore them. To deny their place is to deny the truth of what has already happened. The chamber grew silent again. The council speaker raised his arms once more. Then let it be decided. Humanity shall take its seat among us. The vote was cast. When the results were shown, the chamber filled with sound. Humanity had won recognition. They were no longer only newcomers. They were members of the council. Back on Earth, cheers erupted as the message reached the people. Bells rang again, and lights filled the skies. Colonies far and wide echoed the celebration, their voices joined across the stars. On the Resolute, still orbiting the colony where the turning point had been won, the crew gathered together. Lian smiled as he looked at Mara. Commander, we did it. Humanity has a voice now. Mara looked out at the stars. Her voice was quiet, but filled with pride. This is not the end. It is the beginning. A new dawn for us all. The galaxy had watched as humanity marched into battle. Now it would watch as they marched into history.